Ah. Hello, I'm Lauren. I'm your friendly weight loss surgery knowledge life coach. I'm not a professional medically, so please ask your doctor your medical questions instead of me. That's my disclaimer, because I feel like a lot of people ask me their medical questions and I'm like, I only know my medical issues, and this video is to tell you I don't even know if I know about my own medical stuff. And that's what I'm here for today. So the last video I posted, I talked a lot about my side effects of weight loss surgery and how extreme they were. So basically, if you print out a list of possible side effects of weight loss surgery from mild to severe, I have almost all of them. And a dog that wants to argue with my other dog. Anyways, I have almost all of them. And I have some that are not typical of the vertical gastric sleeve. And I've always been considered an anomaly. So whenever I would go to the doctor and I would tell them what I was dealing with, they would say, well, it's, because you had weight loss surgery. Well, prior to having weight loss surgery, when I would bring up these issues, excessive sweating, always being tired, my heart racing, and, certain things, I was always told, well, it's because you're overweight. If you lose weight, that'll go away. Blood pooling in my legs, weird things. Well, so I had weight loss surgery. All the things did not go away. They got worse, significantly worse. And so, again, I've always been told for the past 9 years since I had weight loss surgery that they were side effects of the surgery. Well, over the past year, interestingly enough, I was talking to a coworker about some of the stuff I was struggling with, mainly the fatigue. That's been the hardest thing for me to deal with because everyone talks about, your vitamin deficiencies and what's going on. And I'm like, at this point, I can't take any more. I don't know what you want from me, body. So, yeah, there was just nothing I could do about my fatigue. And then I was having severe heart palpitations. And anytime I go to the doctor and talk about all the different body issues I had, from my GERD to the neck pain, the muscle spasms, the blood issues in my legs, my circulatory issues, the temperature deregulation, all of that, everything was either is because you had weight loss surgery, or it was attributed to the fact that I used to be overweight, and then whatever was left over was called anxiety, because being a girl means that everything's anxiety. So, okay, back to a year ago, I was sitting at work and talking to a coworker about some of the stuff I was dealing with, and she was like, have you ever heard of POTS? And I was like, yeah, I have a bunch in my kitchen. And she's like, no, the POTS syndrome, where it's the post-trachy something, I don't know. It's something with your heart rate or your blood flow. And I was like, never heard of her. And so I started researching, and I was like, symptoms of POTS are the exact same as the symptoms of my weight loss surgery. How interesting. So I went to my doctor, ironically, on March 10th of 2020, and was like, hey, let's talk about this. And he was like, yeah, those things don't seem normal. We should look into that. Go do some blood work, and then we'll come back and we'll reevaluate after we look at your blood work. And I was like, cool, let's do that. So I did my blood work. Everything came back normal except my cholesterol level, and my good cholesterol was slightly elevated, and that was it. And he was like, you're perfectly healthy. I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, I'm not deficient in anything. I don't have any significant issues in my blood work, and it was just basic blood work. So I was like, I guess I'm fine. And then, COVID happened, and I didn't go back to the doctor until I caught COVID a year later, ironically. And then we didn't discuss anything except my COVID in January. So fast forward to January of this year. When we did talk, I had discussed even more about my heart palpitations and how horrible I felt and how tired I was all the time. And of course, back to, well, it's anxiety, my dear, or maybe you have depression. So they tried to send me to a counselor, but you guys know I went to school for psychology, and like this lady tried to make me do worksheets from a group therapy that I was licensed to teach. And I kind of just laughed at her and was like, lady, I had higher credentials than you. This isn't going to help me. I need to talk to somebody else. So finally I got to see a psychiatrist, and I found a lovely psychiatrist who was like, well, let's work with you. And I'm like, cool, let's see what we can do to fix it. So first thing he did was like, okay, let's deal with your anxiety if it's causing physical pain. And I'm like, yeah, it's like my heart feels like it's like pounding out of my chest sometimes, and like it's painful. And he's like, well, okay, maybe it's just anxiety. When is it worse? And I'm like, when I'm in the car with other people, because I have PTSD about being in the car with other people. So like, I'm trying to figure out how this anxiety thing works. So anyways, he does more evaluations, and he's like, I'm pretty sure you have ADHD. And I'm like, well, I definitely have something attention-wise, because my brain goes ding, 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 and I can never stay on track, which is why these videos are always so long. So he's like, okay, well, here's some medication to try. And he gives me 2 types of medication that are very, very traditional and controlled, and I'm not going to name names, but gives me one for my ADHD and gives me one for anxiety. Both controlled substances, both very strong. And I'm like, I'm not usually one to take pills, but I'll try it. One, he was like, well, this should help with your fatigue too. So I start taking it, and I'm like, yeah, this isn't helping my fatigue in any way, shape, or form, and now I'm just angry. And I'm not focused, and I'm not working harder, and I don't feel better. Now I'm just mean. And then the other one he gave me for anxiety was as needed. So whenever I felt the heart condition, like the heart pumping, anxiety attacks, I was supposed to take this pill. Well, it happens every day, and I'm like, but I'm not really anxious about anything. So like I started getting nervous about when I was supposed to take it or how, and I'm like, okay, well, this is usually when it happens, or this is, so do I take it in advance? Because by the time I would take it, it would take so long to kick in that the palpitation issue would be gone. And so I was like, I don't think it's working. So I tried to take it like preemptively, like if I knew I was going to ride in the car with my dad, because his driving gives me anxiety. I would try to take one before I had to get in the car with my dad, so it'd kick in while we were driving. But then I was still having these heart pounding moments where I'm like, oh my gosh, it hurts. And so I went back to my psychiatrist, and I was like, this isn't working. Number one, take me off this ADHD medication, because I'm mean lately, and I don't like being mean. I'm actually quite kind when I'm happy, and this was not making me happy. So I start talking to him, and we start discussing family history of like medical stuff, and I start talking about my sister and how my sister's been sick. And I said, my sister believes that she may have this EDS syndrome, and she's struggling very hard because her doctors aren't taking her seriously. And so she hasn't had any testing done to figure out if that's what it is that's causing all of her issues. And I was like, but EDS is typically genetic, and it's also one of the precursors for POTS syndrome, which I had been told about a year ago. And I was like, well, if my sister's that sick, and that's what it is, and I have I do have symptoms of EDS that are mild, but I have symptoms similar to POTS that are very severe. I should talk to my doctor. And the psychiatrist was like, I agree. So he took me off both medications that he had put me on because they were completely irrelevant and didn't help. switched him up, put me on meds that actually help with fatigue, and it's not a narcotic, and a medication to help with my circulation that is also used for ADHD because it's a blood pressure it's a blood pressure stabilizer. And I felt better. And I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like $1,000,000. Like, I don't need caffeine. I don't need naps. My heart's not doing the poundy thing anymore. Like, I felt perfect. So I go in to talk to my doctor, and I'm telling my doctor about this stuff. And he's like, I don't know. He's staring at me like a deer in the headlights. Like, he has no idea what I'm talking about. And then I realized how my sister felt going to the doctor all the time, going, please treat me. And they're like, we don't know how. So like, okay. I ended up just asking for a referral to a cardiologist because my sister and I, once we realized there was a correlation between what I was dealing with and what she was dealing with, and there was possibly genetic, we started researching together and cross-referencing symptoms and issues and timelines. And I finally was like, I need to see a cardiologist. And I told my doctor I need to see a cardiologist. And in my town that I live in, we live in a very, very small area. I live in Idaho, in like the corner of Idaho where there's the least amount of people ever. And he's like, I mean, the only thing I can do is send you to Salt Lake City to the University of Utah. Like, that's the closest place you can go for a specialist. And I was like, yeah, I don't want to go to Utah. Like, that's a drive, dude. I don't want to do that. And so, I talked to a friend of mine who actually used to work at the cardiology center here at our hospital, and she knew exactly what to do and who to call and how to handle it. So luckily my doctor had already documented and charted that this was a concern and I wanted to see a cardiologist. And then the cardiology center reached out and got the wires crossed. So I went today. And now I have this lovely heart monitor that I'm going to wear for the next 2 weeks to track my palpitations. I'm also going to be doing an echocardiogram, a stress test, a sleep study, and something else that I forgot because he just kept listing things. And I was like, I don't want to do any of these things. But I realized I'm doing them not only for myself and discover if my symptoms are directly related to my weight loss surgery, or if there is a possibility I have some other genetic issue. But if it is not just my surgery and it is partially genetic, I can help my sister get a proper diagnosis, and then maybe I can help her get better because her issues are debilitating. So anyways, the only reason I am bringing this to you guys and telling you the full story is because I have spent the past 9 years telling you about my symptoms, and there is a possibility that it has nothing to do with my surgery other than it triggered it to be worse. So I just want you guys to know, while everything I have is correlated to weight loss surgery in general, the extreme level that I'm at is not consistent with the vertical gastric sleeve. So I am going through testing. I am trying to figure out what it is. And if it's not EDS and POTS, which is a very good possibility that it's not, and I'm having heart arrhythmia issues or any of those things, my doctor also believes there is a possibility that due to my weight loss surgery, my body is no longer absorbing electrolytes properly because I am frequently and constantly dehydrated. I will tell you that this is the funniest thing. I never once ate a green olive until recently. I was pregnant with my second daughter when I started craving them, which I said that was before my weight loss surgery. So 13 years ago, I started eating green olives just as a little snack. Now my body craves sodium so heavily that I can literally sit with a jar of green olives and just eat them like candy. I'm not big on salty unless it's healthier than chips. I don't know. I try not to eat junk food, so I'm like, what can I eat that has high sodium levels because my body's craving it? And I also drink crazy amounts of water. I'm already past where I'm supposed to be. Like, I try to drink 1 to 1.5 of these a day minimum, which is difficult because I still have a tiny stomach. So I'm not just sitting here like pulling your chain saying like, yeah, I'm actually might have some issues that aren't weight loss surgery related. And then I'm sitting here going like, well, I feel like a jackass for telling all of you guys that it was normal, because for 10 years my doctors have been telling me it's normal. And then one day I discover it's probably not normal, and the cardiologist is like, why have you not seen a cardiologist before? And I'm like, because I'm a girl, and they said everything's anxiety. And you know, because when you're a girl, everything is either because you're overweight, because you're depressed or have anxiety, or because you're a girl and it's reproductive. I swear, like, that's all doctors think women have, is like pregnancy and anxiety and depression. Those are the only things we deal with, and weight issues. And God, if you find a doctor that can treat you for anything else but those 3 things, please share their name with everyone you know. And maybe that's just my experience, but in the 37 years I've been on this planet, I have discovered that being a female does not give me any kind of credibility with doctors. All right, so now that I've spieled at you for, you know, almost 20 minutes, I do want to explain, you know, I will keep following up. I will let you guys know. Again, I wear this lovely little heart monitor for 2 weeks. I'll be sending it in. I will be doing a sleep study here in the next 2 to 3 weeks, and a bunch of other tests. I don't go back to the doctor until August to evaluate all my results. And he said, unless there's something significant that needs to be treated, he's not gonna really try to piece it together until August. So I will be back. I will let you guys know how it's going and what's going on. But I did feel like it would only be fair if you guys were in the loop too, since I've shared so much of my medical story with you that this felt like a big one to share too. So wish me luck. Hope that my heart is nice and strong, but not too strong, and that my circulatory system is healthy. And that I can help my sister get some answers so maybe she can get her life back, because no one should ever find themselves curled in a ball in pain for most of the day and have doctors who don't take them seriously. With that being said, have a lovely day. Oh, and obviously things are a little different around here because, whoosh, told you guys, I'm getting married very soon. And he moved in right before we got married because, you know, we're getting married and he'd probably move in. So yeah, he's not here right now because he's in the military and he's gone for a minute, but this is my new room with my new man, and he's amazing. And hopefully one day soon he'll actually like participate and talk to you guys about stuff, because that'd be cool. Okay, bye.